So previously we were working on relational database management system. So in this management system, we are basically interested about writing some queries. So we can write queries in the design view using the relational tables we have, and we can also write the structural query language codes in the query view. So let's go to where we stopped. So over here I showed already to you what are the rules of relationship we are following in a table and when we are merging those tables. So we are basically going to work on structural query language, that means SQL. So in queries we actually have stored information, and we have information in tables. We try to retrieve the specific information. Let's say we have information of trees in many different planting sites. Then if we are interested about one specific species, then we need to write a code to identify that specific species and save it is in a table. We can aggregate the information and we can summarize the information in a statistical table. We can identify for numerical variable what are the total, what are the averages. So we actually did those in R, and we also did those in Excel. So we can do the same in structured query language. It doesn't save or duplicate any data, as I mentioned to you before, and provide information every time we request them. So using this structural query language, you can also update the information, you can remove some information, you can save information in a new table. So our first step, as I mentioned, is that we need to install LibreOffice. You can work on different platforms. Previously we used to use Microsoft Access, but we are right now using LibreOffice. It's actually an open source, and you can install in different system in Mac or Windows. So and it's freely available, but you also need to install JavaScript. So you will see that how to install them. I provided information, and then our TAs created some useful video so that you can install on your system based on your system, Windows or Mac, 64 32-bit. So you need to install, also you need to install the JavaScript so that you can properly work on LibreOffice. So I hope you already installed LibreOffice. So what we basically need is that in LibreOffice we have various platforms. So when we work on LibreOffice, let's say I open LibreOffice. So you can see we have LibreOffice Calc, that means more like Excel. So if you open LibreOffice Calc, so you will see that it's just like an Excel page. So you can see we have the cells, we have the we have columns, and we have the rows. So we can bring in any of our data file in here, let's say in Excel file or in text file. So that means we need to bring in our data on the calc environment first, then we can bring it into our LibreOffice SQL design format. So that means in this form, in the Office Calc, it's more like Excel file. Also you saw that if I write LibreOffice, so you can see LibreOffice base, we will be working on the base, but to bring in the data into LibreOffice own environment, you need to use LibreOffice Calc, and we basically will be using LibreOffice this environment. So I'm just opening a data. Let's say that's the data we have. Replace it. So let's say This is actually the VRI data we had before, and then I open the data. So that means this is the LibreOffice base. This is where we are going to work on. So we have different items. We have tables, we have queries, and we have forms, and we have reports. So we will be bringing our data in here. So I gave it the name VRI data, and then let's bring the table, or we can create a table in here. So let's say we have our VRI data in here. So if you have a table already been created and then we brought in the data, so you can see in the LibreOffice base we opened a table, and table is in table view. So it's more like in Excel what we used to see. You can see different columns, and on your rows you have the records, and on the columns we have the fields. So that's what I mentioned in here. We are going to launch the LibreOffice, and we are going to work on the base, the LibreOffice base, and you can bring in the data using the open file and then bring in the data. Or if there is no base template, so if you are starting new database, you have to create your own. So that means, let's say you don't have anything in here, so let's say close it, and the one I created before in LibreOffice, so I open that, and you can see we don't have anything in here. That means we need to create our own table. Then we can identify the variable, the fields, and we can say what type of information is that. So you can see in LibreOffice, as I showed you on the LibreOffice base, we have tables. We can create the table, or we can bring in the data. So provide the storage of all information, where we are keeping our information, and then in a highly structured way, just like I talk about it. Relational database, we actually keep information in a highly structured way, and we record, we keep the record. That means that in the rows we have all the information. There is no duplicate, and fields, that means the columns we provided. Also in queries, we are going to store specific information. We can provide the summaries, or we can provide, let's say, only, just like I said, selecting specific species. And we can also create some forms, just like people will be filling some forms, but in this course we are not going to create the form. But if you want, you can go to your LibreOffice and create forms. It's more like you are filling information using some forms. And then you can also create some reports, that means the analysis. But basically we will be working on creating table or bringing in the table, and then mostly on queries. So we will be building different queries. So in our database, you will see that whenever we are creating a data, so most importantly, it will be text, or it will be numerical values. If it is text, then it could be short text, or it could be long text. So how many characters we can assign, we can add. Based on that, we have the short or long text. So let's show you. So let's say this is our table. So in this table, at first we need to add ID. So I added an ID. ID is an integer, and the value, yes, we need to add automatic value. Let's say I would like to add last name, and last name, it's a text. Yes, it's a text. So you can see I identify it as a text, and then you can say how many characters you want, what would be the length of the text. So we can add the maximum number if it is depending on length. We can say whether it's a short text or long text. So let's say integer, let's say for integer year, that means that's a whole number. We can say the year, and we need to add the integer. That should be, it's not auto value, and then it should be entering the required values, the whole numbers, and then, or you can say it's actually date. If it is a date, then you can say it's a date, it's not just the year. And then fraction of numbers, let's say we have the long integer, but we can also have the fraction of numbers. Let's say height, it could be the numeric, and if you add decimal, then you can say how many decimals you want. Let's say we want 2 decimals, and then we can save it, give it a name of your table, and then let's close. Yes, and then let's go back to our table. You can see we created a table, but we need to add the information in here: last name, year, and height. So you can add the information. And last name Ahmed, let's say here is, now we are entering the height. Let's say I'm just adding anything, and then you can add more information, and it will keep saving it. If you close it and go back, you will see that it's saved. You can go back. So after that, so we added different information. We added decimals. Let's say in our table, I say that I can add 2 decimals. And let's say next one I want to add 100.2555. See, it says that you cannot add more than 2 because the way I designed or formatted this height record, not record, it's the record is this 100, height is the field, and then we say that there should be 2 decimals, and then year we can say 2020, and the last name could be LH. Okay, so let's say now we want to add date and time. Go to edit, then to write the date, register maybe. We cannot just say date, so let's say the date and date or time, and then we can add more information or in another format you want. Let's say I want it in this format, and save. Close. In the table you can see date register, let's say 20, if I say 2019 December, you can see December 5th, and it actually changed it to its own form. So let's say like 2020 March 15th. If I enter, you can see it actually converts it to its own form. So let's say I want to add another variable, expense, and expense I want to add it as a numeric, but I would like to add the currency symbol. So you can add the currency symbol in here, and how many decimals you want, you can say that, and you can select the many different currency symbol. You can select the European or the just only for Canadian dollar, you can use just the $sign. So let's say I added that and save it. Go back to our table. So in the table expense, say $100. You can see now it's adding the $sign and then 2 decimals. 150. So that's how we can add the date and time and the currency. Okay, so I already talked about the primary key. That's a unique identifier, and we can use it for identifying information of object or person or trees. So we cannot have duplicated IDs, and we can auto generate them in our table. So you will see that we can create the table, you can create the queries, and you can add the different types. So that's what I talked about. Also, you can add the data dictionary. So you will see that step-by-step procedure is shown in this video. So you need to take a look at those videos, how we can add the data dictionary and how we can rename the table. See all the videos so that you can practice. Also, data set is given in there. And I also showed you before how we can join different tables and how we can create some queries. And so you will see that in the LibreOffice base we can create queries. So query is basically we can write it on a SQL view or maybe in design view. So let's give you an example. Let's say we want to select some information, some fields. So you can see select only these fields, and then we say that from where, from a table, and then do what. That means what are the conditions you want to add. So if I have a table, so let's say I have a table, let's bring in that data, save the previous data. So basically how we can create some query, it's mentioned here. So let's say I bring in a data. So in this data file, we already gave you the data file. So later on you will see that FRST232 table. So that's the data file we have. This is the VRI data that you worked on before. So let's say I want to select some of these variables, some of these fields, and some of these records. How can I do that? So I need to create query. So go to query and then which table, that's the table you want to add. And let's see what we have in here. So you can see we have many information over there. So over here it says that select some of them, some variable information, and then let's select some variable information and let's add a question. Let's say we want to select wherever we have treed information. So I selected the ID and BC level 1, BC level 2. So let's say in BC level 2, so that's what we have. BC level 2, we have treed information. That means treed is the treed stand. That means we have labels for tree. So T, and then before and after you can add the inverted commas, or if you leave it just like that, hit enter, you will see that it will add inverted commas, and then you can say run the query. So only 3 fields are selected, and then only from BC level 2 where we have the whether stands are treed or not, that information is there, only we have selected those stands. So you can see. So basically we wrote a query. So let's go to what we actually wrote. So over here we say that select 3 fields from where, from this table. That means the table is this table. So from this table we selected only treed stands. So that means before what we had in this table is that, let's show you, 2, 3, 2, sorry. So you can see we have treed stand, non-treed stands, all those information is there. So that means we are only selecting treed stands, not the non-treed stands. So we know the labels, and then based on the labels we have, we selected treed stands. Then you can add more conditions. So let's go back to the design. So that means we selected treed stands. If we say that, how about select the, based on the BC level 1, it has only V, we can see that, but based on the IDs, so let's say I want to select IDs more than 100. So that's another condition. That means both of the conditions should be satisfied, more than 100 and then the treed stand, if you are writing it on criteria. So let's show you. So that means both criteria are satisfied. So if I go back to our SQL view, so you can see we selected based on two conditions. ID is greater than 100 and BC level is T. If you say OR in here, let's say OR, and run the program, and then go back to your design view, so you can see it was in the criteria, now it moved to OR. That means both conditions were satisfied before, but right now we are satisfying either of them. So that means we are actually selecting more. That's how OR and AND works. And you will see that there are some wildcard you can work on. So let's say anything start with some letter, let's say start with G, and anything ends with G, or anything starts with A and it has 3 more letters. That's how we can identify. The same thing we can do. If I say the letter starts with, let's say like, if we are writing the like and we are writing like T, so that means from the BC level 2 we are only selecting T and then inverted comma followed by star. If I hit enter, so that means I am going to select only treed stand and more than 100 ID value, and run it. And if you go back to the SQL view, then you can see that we selected more than 100 ID values. BC level 2, it should match the value, the letter T. That means starts with T. If it has more, let's say tree, then it will, let's say other letters were there, then it will also select this one.
This came back from a search.
So later on you will see that we can also do some calculations in any field. So let's say we have the table, and let's go back to the table. Let's close it, save it. Okay, so we are giving it a name. Then we say that we would like to create a query and do some calculations. So let's say in query 1, what are the information? We have information of trees. So we have shape area of each of those IDs. So let's say we would like to use that. And if I go to let's say create a query, and I'm going to use these queries, the first table. Let's say I would like to do some calculations, and if I use the shape area, if I want to find this average, then you can just find the average. The average of the shape area is this value. Or let's say how it's look like, select and then average of shape area. And let's go back, let's say I'm not interested about the function. None of these function. So let's say I'm interested to do some calculation. That means let's say I have the IDs BC level 2, and then I would like to find if I have the shape area, and then for that shape area, let's say shape underscore area, and I would like to multiply each of those value by 10. And then what's the name I would like to provide? Let's say name is SHP. That's the name. So I multiplied each of those values by 10 and then run the program. So you can see the shape area. So I multiplied these by 10. And then we also like to keep it. So that means shape area, and then each of those shape area is multiplied by 10. Or if you want to divide it by 10, then say divide it by 10. And then run it. Okay. And then save it. That's how calculation works. So I showed you a simple calculation. So you will see that I already talked about these 3 data files, and then in those data files how we can actually join them, and you can see how we can create new columns. It also shows in here, and after the installation you'll see that we have lots of videos. So in this video our TAs showed you how you can create a table in design view and choose different field types and add different data. So you can use this one, but you can create your own table. This is the output table. Also for employees, this is another data file. So how you can import from your calc to the LibreOffice base. It shows in this video, but for me I found that this video is really helpful for me. This is another method. So this is the easiest one, how you can do it. This second method, you can, if you want, you can use this second method, how to bring in from your calc environment to your LibreOffice base, and how you can import the text file. So I gave you the text file and how you can import the text file into LibreOffice. It's been shown in here, and how you can do some calculations. It's shown in this video. Also how you can write simple queries, and then how you can add table fields and limit output. It's shown in this video. And how you can work with multiple tables, linking them. So you will see that the hotel guest table where I shown you, it's actually, that's the tables we have in here, and how we can do some calculations. I showed you a simple calculation, but how we can do more calculation, it's been shown here. Also more you will find in this link. So that means in this page from LibreOffice, they provided what are the functions you can write. So if you want to write some absolute value, so you can see absolute values and then differences, and power, and the random numbers you generated before, how you can generate random numbers. Also the difference between dates. In one of those examples, it's been shown how you can write hours and then time, and then how you can find the minimum, maximum. All these are shown in here. So I hope this site will be helpful for you. And then how we can write some queries, some conditional queries, and use some wildcards, like I showed you how we can use the like and star. And these are for the mathematical operations, so we can use these operators. And you will see that how we can work on more on navigating our data set. And then lastly, we have another example how we can add in the query design, how we can add some query and then add some conditions. I hope you will practice all these, and then all the data sets are given, so that by watching those videos and side by side working on them, also those videos are audio enabled. I hope that will be helpful for you. So after you finish all these, then it will be easier for you to work on the exercise. Thank you.